Welcome back to House of Footy, guys. We're going to continue our World Cup group stage predictions for the obviously upcoming World Cup. And now we're going to talk about Group C, which consists of Saudi Arabia, Mexico, Argentina, and Poland. Saudi Arabia were winners of Group B in the Asian qualifying. Mexico finished second in the CONCACAF. Argentina finished second in the South American qualifications, and Poland finished. Oh, they won their playoffs in Path B after beating Sweden 2-0. And let me get started, I guess, quickly. I think we're all going to be looking at Argentina to be the favorites. But obviously, up there is also a fellow North American team in the shape of Mexico. And as we know, with Mexico playing in World Cups, they all obviously, regardless of whatever is happening in their national team. Maybe some point at Raul Jimenez not really playing well for his club team. We can always count on Guillermo Ochoa to drop some banger games and them likely finishing second in their group after Argentina. So definitely, I think similar to the first groups that we talked about, it's going to be Argentina first, and then a toss up between Mexico and Poland to finish second and third. But yeah, Gio, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I think again, this Poland team just really just worries me because it's another one of those teams where a bunch of these guys is going to be their last World Cups, and it's kind of like make or break, especially when it comes to the goal scoring machine that is Robert Lewandowski. Of course, we've seen him perform at the world stage, at the club stage, at a very high level, scoring a lot of goals. But can he do it again? Can he carry this team again? Which, again, similar to the Bale situation, I don't think he'll be able to carry them once again through this group by himself. Apart from him, the midfield isn't overly strong. I wouldn't say. I mean, it's very comparable to that of Mexico in terms of the quality. But I think the Mexican team is just a better team in general. So I do have, if like at least in my bracket, I do have Mexico moving on as opposed to Poland. And we're not just
Hmm.
and sorry to disrespect any Saudi Arabia fans, but I just don't think they have a very clear shot here in this group at all.
Okay, fair. Same question to you, Mac. Overall thoughts?
Uh, it should be a breeze for Argentina, but it's very interesting that their first game is actually going to be at 5 a.m. North American time, so it's going to be tough for us to be able to watch. So that's the first thing that comes to mind when I'm thinking about this group. Is I would love, again, you want to see Messi play every minute at the World Cup, and if at 5 a.m., guess what? I'll probably be up and I'll hate myself for it. But overall, it's very interesting. Just like in Group B, where a lot of the conversation is going to go around that first game for the group, where similarly between USA and Wales, it's going to be between Mexico and Poland. They play right away, and both of them, I think, are going to go in that game very slow, very trying not to lose. And in my opinion, that does actually suit Poland, who, for me, have more defensive solidity as a team, are much more structured. I know Lewandowski does play a different role as a number nine, where he does drop a little bit deeper than he does for Barcelona when he's playing for his national team. But right now, he has a couple players shoot a bit on the pitch for each respective country, actually, who are in extremely hot form for Napoli, with Lozano for Mexico, as well as Zielinski for Poland. So both those players are playing very, very well. And for me, I think those are the two players I'm looking at. If they play well in this game, either one, whoever has a better game, for me, is probably going to potentially have a better opportunity to carry his team for a win, because you have a lot of other, because just like there's probably a little bit more midfield depth on the Mexico squad, and Lozano probably is a little bit more of that star striker by himself, where there's not as much kind of help up top. Respectively for Poland, where Zielinski for me is going to be the straw that stirs the drink, and is going to be the key player going to give opportunities to Lewandowski. So that's the first thing overall. Of course, is I think of Argentina getting through, probably hopefully pretty breezily. But this matchup for me is very fascinating between two diametrically different teams. What about you, Ray? What are your thoughts? Is there kind of like maybe a key player that you're looking at, or what other takeaways do you have from this group?
Yeah, so you mentioned that there. Obviously, Mexico and Poland will be interesting, but I also want to go back to the Argentina team. Obviously, now we know it's actually been confirmed. I think since that Angel Correa will be missing out. I think as well. Um, there was another player
There
that
was another
was
player, yes.
missing. I think it was Joaquin Correa, I believe, who was gonna also miss out. Big injury to as well, Giovanni Lo Celso, who played well in the Argentina team for them to win the Copa America, which timely injuries and people missing out will make it a little bit more difficult. But again, given the teams that they'll be facing in this group stage, I think Argentina will have enough, and it's really gonna be them setting the tone with that first game and seeing how they can get their midfield going. Because obviously the likes of Rodrigo De Paul, Leandro Paredes, um, those are players that you likely depend on a lot more, as opposed to maybe Alex McAllister, even though he's been playing well for Brighton. They also have the likes of Guido Rodriguez, Pablo Gomez, Ezequiel Palacios. I've heard Enzo Fernandez has had a great season. So hopefully he can be part of that midfield as well. And then it's just what can you do to support that front line, which will be likely made up of Messi, Di Maria, and either Lautaro Martinez, likely because Paulo Dybala as well has been injured for a big part of the season, playing for Roma. So the likelihood of him starting, I think, are quite thin, and he will likely be like an impact sub later on. So that's just for me for the Argentina team. I guess Gio, anything regarding the other teams or even the Argentina team that stands out?
Yeah, no, I think I agree with Mac in terms. I was actually gonna mention it when it came back around, but yeah, Chucky Lozano has to have a good game. And I
Mm,
think fans will always point and say, he's having a great season at Napoli. Why shouldn't he have a great tournament uh, with the Mexican side? He earned. He was almost the the up and coming star in the last World Cup. But now that he's earned a bigger move to Napoli. Struggled early on at Napoli, but the has since then found his form. I would say, you know, they're gonna turn. I think this whole Mexican side is turning a new reign, and they're looking to their younger stars. But I think uh, the team selection made sense. They've surrounded themselves with younger stars in a group of veterans, which again will be a last almost swan song for a lot of these guys too. And then on the Argentinian side, it's 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 not what Messi can't do. It's what the others have to do in order for them to be more successful and to be dominant. I'd say not successful. I'm not going to doubt their success. Just be more dominant and be more convincing, so that we do expect them to make it out of the group stage, topping the group. But putting almost that fear into the next round, say for those other teams saying, okay, now we have to face Argentina. Messi's gonna be Messi, but are we really worried about the other guys like like Paulo Dybala and those other guys? So yeah, it's gonna be important for the other guys to have a hot start, not so Messi, because we know Messi can pick it up. He's a vet. He's probably the goat, and the goat will do goat things. So don't worry about Messi too much. We got to worry about everybody else but Messi.
Mac?
Well, I love hearing Gio call Messi the goat. That just this warms the cockles of my heart. So thank you for that. But for me, I guess I look at the front three, and I'll be very interested in terms of how they'll play out. Is where kind of what I talked about in our last podcast with Messi in behind actually Lautaro Martinez and Julian Alvarez. Julian Alvarez. I think that could
Okay.
be a very very interesting front three and how I would structure it, especially because Angel Di Maria is not in the greatest form as of right now. Versus
Sisu was injured as well.
exactly, and Julian Alvarez has played very very well for City when he has come on. The only thing with that front three, especially because traditionally they have played with midfield three as well, Sometimes it may lack a little bit of width because Messi's going to float to the middle, and you're playing with more so two central quote unquote strikers. I would say that's very interesting. I think though person that has to have a big tournament, because if we're going to pick apart and look at the weakest part of this Argentina team, is probably their defense, is Emilio Martinez, who has been so hot and cold for Aston Villa, where he's played
Hmm.
very, very well in some games, but absolute dog shit in others. So it'll be interesting to see who we get out of him. But it seems whenever he does put on that shirt, he does put in a really good performance. And for him, he very much more so lives for this than kind of playing for club football. And definitely, I would love to see any penalty shootout with him in it. Any penalty shot, he will trash talk everybody and their mother. So that for me, I think he has to have a great tournament if they're going to perform very well, because in my opinion, the weakest part of this team is the defensive side. Because if you're still putting Otamendi, Romero, or Christian Romero out there beside Alessandro Martinez, it might be rough days.
Yeah, definitely we'll keep an eye on that. So let's move on now to Group D, which is made up of Tunisia, Denmark, France, and Australia. So Gio, before we get into your thoughts, Tunisia made it through after beating Mali in their two-legged tie. Denmark finished top of Group F in the UEFA qualifying. France finished top of Group D, and Australia finished third in their group, but qualified after beating the United Arab Emirates 2-1 in the playoff, and then beating Peru on penalties and for that final spot. Wow, what a journey there. So Gio, your thoughts?
Um, I think as everybody believes, I think France will sort of dominate the group, and I think this group kind of works out for them early on in the tournament. They really benefit from having a weaker group, simply because they've lost a lot of key pieces in the midfield, and they have to make sure that their midfield gets going and understands what they're trying to accomplish on the pitch. Young stars like Chouameni, in particular, and Camavinga, obviously who Chouameni, who's already having a fairly good season at Real Madrid, but Camavinga has been struggling early on. How to get those guys going. You know, you have you have the Ballon d'Or winner up front, paired with people with World Cup championship experience. So it's not I'm not worried about any part of the pitch except for the midfield. So to be able to put in some minutes against these weaker teams, say like Tunisia, say Australia, see what they're capable of, see what they need to move around, is going to benefit them going into the later stages of the tournament. And again, I had Denmark really just struggling, and I think they will still finish second. But I think they won't be as convincing as people um, kind of set them out to be in this tournament. Like I said like I said in a past podcast that will come out, is that I think the Cinderella runs are over. It's different, man. Like people figure it out. It's sports. People will figure teams out, and I think that's what's going to happen here. Although they'll still make it out of the group, I think they will immediately struggle in the knockout group.
See,
Okay,
when you say
Matt,
that,
your question.
Giro, when you say that, Giro, it's sports. But something that comes back to me over and over again is the previous winners of the World Cup absolutely shitting the bed in the next World Cup tournament. Right? That's definitely been tradition. I think of since '02, the furthest team to be able to after winning the World Cup, the furthest team made it was making it to the quarterfinals. And in fact, when France won their last World Cup in '98 in that '02 tournament, didn't even make it out of the group stage. So, not to say that curse can continue to happen, but would I be surprised? Not really at the same time. I think they are fortunate to be able to be in this group with Tunisia and Australia, who are, of course, probably two of the weaker teams, in my opinion, coming into the tournament. But at the same time, I have a disagreement with Gio in terms of Denmark. For me, are a really really good team. I think they have a really good opportunity to be able to um, come out even out first in the group if they perform well against France, because they should very comfortably win the other two games. It's the only group with two of the top 10 ranked teams in world football at the moment. So I very much see that matchup being everything. That match between the two teams. Of course, it's the second match of the week if they of the tournament for both teams. So if they come out with a win respective, I think they'll feel comfortable to be able to maybe France should feel comfortable to go all out and be able to be an attacking force. But under Didier Deschamps, that's not something they do. They're very conservative on the ball. They are not looking to be as aggressive. And that may open some more doors for Denmark where they can grow into a game and arguably have a very, very strong midfield with Gio's favorite player, Christian Eriksen. They have Højbjerg, Matthias Jensen. They're going to feel very, very comfortable in that game. And if there's a weak French midfield at that moment, they may be able to take advantage. So I'm not counting them out of this group at all. I want to be clear though. I want Denmark to finish second because, of course, they would face the winners of Group C against Argentina. So I want Denmark to finish second. I don't want France to finish second. But would I be surprised if that happens? No. What about you, Ray?
Honestly, Denmark, like you guys said, still decent team, and looking at the talent all around, and defense and midfield, very, very capable. My only concern for them is who starts up front. The likes of Martin Braithwaite, Yusuf Poulsen. Definitely, we've seen Mikkel Damsgaard has been a bright spot, but I don't think he's really featured for Brentford so far since his transfer. And so, if they do go down a goal, or if they find it hard to break down a team, my only concern is, do they have that person or that striker who will come through and deliver when needed? Obviously, it's a team game, and various players can step up for any team. But my concern is just without having a recognized, I guess, top class striker, it's just going to be a little bit more of a challenge for them. Though I do think that they still should finish top two in that group. I guess my question for you guys is the midfield for France. Who do you guys see starting? Because obviously we're thinking of Conte and Pogba not being there. I would have loved Camavinga coming off the bench, similar to how he does for Real Madrid, and setting that pace. Especially as Jim mentioned, he has been struggling for his club side so far. I guess what do you guys think should be the midfield starting lineup? And another question, if you guys want to answer that as well, will William Saliba start for that French back line? Mac, let's hear your thoughts.
Yeah, so Saliba should be starting, in my opinion, 100%. It would be very interesting to see if he's going to run with a traditional back four, play, let's say, a 4-2-3-1. I wouldn't be surprised if he went to Tchouaméni, Camavinga in both holding positions and played Antoine Griezmann right in front of them in that number 10 position. I think that could be an interesting take because for me, in the midfield positions, there's not a kind of an aggressive ball carrier be able to break down a team, and Griezmann does have that work rate to play in behind a striker, even though he's supposed to be a striker, which is kind of funny. Or if you're switching to kind of a back five, and you're playing kind of a 5-2-3, then still that midfield duo for me works very, very well. And then a back three of Varane, Lucas Hernandez, and William Saliba. There's nothing you can't be upset with that at all. With Diona Hernandez on one side and Benjamin Pavard on the other. So it really comes down to the formation who I think will play. I think from everything that I've heard, Didier Deschamps has leaned more towards that back five. And if that's the case, that's how I would project them to line up with Saliba and both Camavinga and Tchouaméni in the midfield. What about you, Gio?
I actually would again like to use and benefit Camavinga as sort of like that super sub, that kind of spark, if you may. But I would see a duel, if not a trio of. Let me get their names. It would have to include Tchouaméni, of course, and Matteo Guendouzi, and a player by the name of Jordan Vertut. who's having a pretty good season in Marseille. So I can see the Marseille connection being there.
Hmm.
Ganduzi, very capable of getting you a card, taking a foul whenever needed. So it's always nice to have those types of players on the field to sort of not so I can't say hurt a player, but definitely let your presence be known. Kind of almost like that Granit Xhaka type player, which he probably
Hmm.
learned a lot from in his days at Arsenal. So I can see that. I can see Vertu being more of that attacking midfielder. He in his last, I think his last 5 games at Marseille. You know, 2 assists with 2 goals, obviously against Monaco, who isn't fantastic, but still having
Hmm.
that capability of doing those things, I think will benefit whoever is playing up front. So I think I would like to see that combo.
I do want to say,
Hey,
how dare you leave Adrian Rabiot out of that? Your Manchester United
Hey,
wanted signing. I'm gonna throw
hey,
that out there.
hey, I'm not gonna say something. I was gonna say something really rude, but I remember that people are watching this, so I'll, I,
hey,
I, I'll, I'll, bro, I'll keep my comments about Veronica to myself. Okay.
Okay, no, that's fair. That's fair. That's fair. That's fair.
just lastly before we take another break, when you mentioned Mac that it could be Camavinga, Chouameni, and Griezmann as a three in midfield, that just led me. I just once you said that, I couldn't think of anything else other than Dembele, Benzema, and Mbappe as a front three, who arguably could be the best front three of the whole tournament. Maybe even better than the Brazil front three. So, hey, let me imagine that while we take a break, and we'll be back with you for some more group covers.